Reaction continues to pour in tonight as a community looks for answers in the death of a Toledo teen. Kei'Mani Latigue, found dead in an abandoned home just days before her 14th birthday.
The brutal murder of 13-year-old Kei'Mani Latigue stands as one of the most harrowing cases of child abuse and systemic failure in recent memory. This comprehensive examination delves into the disturbing details of her short life, the multiple institutional failures that allowed her abuse to continue unchecked, and the urgent reforms needed to prevent similar tragedies. At nearly 2,000 words, this analysis provides an in-depth look at how an entire community failed a vulnerable child, from her family members to child protective services, law enforcement, and educational institutions. Kei'Mani's story begins with a fractured family structure that set the stage for her eventual tragedy. Born into instability, she was shuffled between caregivers from infancy, primarily her grandmother Dorothy Latigue, and a godmother, while her biological mother remained conspicuously absent from her life. This lack of stable parenting created vulnerabilities that would be exploited by the man who would ultimately kill her, Darnell Jones.
That, as the man accused of her murder, her own father, remains hospitalized more than 100 miles away. Darnell Jones, who also goes by Darnell Ogletree,
who, despite not being her biological father, maintained a persistent presence in her life. The very foundation of Kei'Mani's existence was precarious, with no single adult taking full responsibility for her safety and well-being. The circumstances surrounding Kei'Mani's death reveal a pattern of escalating violence and missed opportunities for intervention. In the days preceding her murder, Darnell Jones exhibited increasingly suspicious behavior that should have raised alarms. His demand that his girlfriend disable their home surveillance cameras, coupled with his nervous explanation about not wanting authorities to see his late return home, demonstrated clear consciousness of guilt. Fortunately, his girlfriend's refusal to comply preserved crucial evidence that would later help build the case against him. The subsequent discovery of Kei'Mani's body in a dilapidated East Toledo home marked the tragic culmination of what investigators would determine was years of abuse. The autopsy findings painted a picture of unimaginable cruelty. Medical examiners documented multiple sharp force wounds to Kei'Mani's neck, so severe they nearly decapitated her. The additional discovery that her hands had been severed suggested a deliberate attempt to destroy forensic evidence. These findings pointed not just to a crime of passion, but to a calculated act of violence with clear intent to conceal. The brutality of the injuries shocked even seasoned investigators.
All right, Kaylee, thank you. We continue to follow the latest in the death of 13-year-old Kei'Mani Latigue. Right now, her father, who's accused of murdering her, is recovering in a Columbus hospital,
raising urgent questions about how such extreme violence could have gone undetected in a child who had regular contact with schools and social services. Darnell Jones's extensive criminal history makes the failure to protect Kei'Mani all the more egregious. His record reads like a textbook of violent offenses that should have barred him from any contact with vulnerable children. Beginning in 2011, with an arson conviction at age 19, Jones demonstrated a pattern of escalating violence that included firearm offenses, brutal assaults, and domestic violence incidents.
Officers there say SWAT had been following Darnell Jones for at least 2 days. They confirmed Jones had a weapon when they made contact with him.
Particularly disturbing was the 2019 incident where neighbors witnessed him holding a woman over a balcony by her throat, threatening to throw her to the ground below as she screamed for help. Despite these repeated violent outbursts, Jones consistently received lenient sentences, often avoiding significant jail time through probation or suspended sentences. The educational system's failure to protect Kei'Mani represents another catastrophic breakdown. Her attendance at 6 different schools in just 13 years should have been an immediate red flag for educators and administrators. This pattern of frequent school changes often indicates either instability or deliberate attempts to evade scrutiny of abusive home situations. Multiple teachers reported noticing bruises on Kei'Mani's body, yet no coordinated intervention occurred. Instead of triggering a mandatory child welfare investigation, these observations resulted only in Kei'Mani being transferred to yet another school, allowing the cycle of abuse to continue uninterrupted. One particularly dedicated educator admitted to trying desperately to remove Kei'Mani from her dangerous environment. but found herself thwarted by bureaucratic inertia.
Now, with breaking news.
And that breaking new information tonight as we come on the air in the Kei'Mani Latigue murder investigation. Toledo police executing several search warrants, including where the suspect.
And lack of institutional support. Child Protective Services, CPS, failed Kei'Mani most profoundly of all. The agency received multiple reports about her welfare, including 3 in the months immediately preceding her death. Despite these warnings, caseworkers concluded there was insufficient evidence to remove her from her home. Most shockingly, Kei'Mani's grandmother revealed that CPS caseworkers had actually provided guidance on how to physically discipline the child appropriately, specifying that corporal punishment should be limited to the buttocks to avoid visible marks. This revelation suggests CPS not only failed to recognize the abuse, but may have inadvertently enabled it by providing instructions on how to administer physical punishment without triggering further scrutiny. The agency's failure represents a fundamental breakdown in its most basic mandate: to protect vulnerable children from harm. The family dynamics surrounding Kei'Mani's case reveal additional layers of failure. Her grandmother, Dorothy Latigue, who served as primary caregiver for significant periods, has come under intense scrutiny for her role in the tragedy. Reports indicate Kei'Mani frequently showed signs of physical abuse while in her grandmother's care, yet no meaningful intervention occurred. Even more disturbing is the apparent absence of Kei'Mani's biological mother from the narrative, raising questions about her knowledge of and responsibility for her daughter's well-being. The complete failure of every adult in Kei'Mani's life to protect her represents a catastrophic collapse of the most basic familial responsibilities. The legal aftermath of Kei'Mani's murder has exposed significant gaps in how the justice system handles repeat violent offenders.
Darnell Jones, Kei'Mani's father, lived on the east side. 13 Action News learning it was Jones' girlfriend who helped police.
Darnell Jones's extensive criminal history demonstrates how individuals with clear patterns of violent behavior can slip through the cracks of the legal system. His repeated arrests for serious offenses, followed by lenient sentencing, created a dangerous false sense that his behavior was being adequately controlled. This case highlights the urgent need for reform in how courts handle repeat violent offenders, particularly those who demonstrate escalating patterns of dangerous behavior. The public response to Kei'Mani's death has been one of justified outrage and demands for systemic reform. Community members, child advocates, and legal experts have called for comprehensive reviews of CPS procedures, educational reporting protocols, and sentencing guidelines for violent offenders. The case has sparked important conversations about how to strengthen the safety net for at-risk children and ensure that warning signs are never again ignored. Many are demanding accountability not just for Darnell Jones, but for all the systems and individuals who failed to intervene when they had the opportunity to save Kei'Mani's life. In the wake of this tragedy, several key reforms have been proposed to prevent similar failures. These include mandatory cross-reporting between schools and child welfare agencies, stricter sentencing for repeat violent offenders, improved training for CPS caseworkers, and the creation of multidisciplinary review teams for complex child welfare cases. Some advocates have called for the implementation of predictive analytics in child welfare, using data to identify high-risk cases before tragedy strikes. Others emphasize the need for better support systems for teachers and other mandated reporters who often feel powerless to help children in dangerous situations. Kei'Mani's story serves as a grim reminder of the consequences of systemic indifference.
We spotted community members today moving the memorial that has been outside the home where Kei'Mani Latigue's body was found. The memorial for Kei'Mani now sits just down the street.
Her death was not an unavoidable tragedy, but the predictable result of multiple failures at every level of the child protection system. From her family to her schools, to the social services meant to safeguard her, every potential safety net failed catastrophically. The true measure of justice for Kei'Mani will not be found solely in the punishment of her killer, but in the implementation of meaningful reforms that ensure no child ever again falls through the same cracks. As we reflect on this heartbreaking case, we must confront difficult questions about our collective responsibility to protect vulnerable children. How many warning signs must be present before action is taken? What reforms are needed to ensure that children in dangerous situations receive timely intervention? How can we empower teachers, social workers, and community members to effectively advocate for at-risk youth? These questions demand thoughtful, comprehensive answers if we are to honor Kei'Mani's memory with meaningful change. Kei'Mani Latigue's legacy must be a child welfare system that truly protects children, a legal system that prioritizes domestic violence, and a society that refuses to ignore endangered children. Her painful story teaches us the cost of complacency and the urgency of reform. Only by confronting these systemic failures can we prevent future tragedies and ensure her death was not in vain. Kei'Mani's murder is more than one individual's crime. It exposes systemic failures and our shared duty to protect vulnerable children. Moving forward demands honest accountability, stronger safeguards, and real reform. While we can't undo her tragedy, we must honor her memory by fighting for a safer world for all children. Anything less betrays our obligation to society's most vulnerable.